All right, so it is 6:01, and I want to thank everybody who's joining us today for this virtual meeting for the design phase of Fredericksburg Road. My name is Joe Conger. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of San Antonio's Public Works Department, and I welcome you this evening. We have a short presentation for you and want to hear your thoughts on this project. So I would like to show what you probably have on your screen, which is basically those icons on your phone, your smartphone, or on your device, your iPhone or your laptop. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the projects. We're asking you to take a look at those two buttons you want to become familiar with. The first button allows you to comment to the panelists and the host regarding what you're seeing on the screen, whether you're having trouble hearing, you got any general comments you may have. Again, these are just comments and remarks. That is the chat icon, and that is the chat icon so that you can let us know we're having some issues or difficulties, and we'll try to get to you there. However, if you have a question specifically about this project and you want to ask a question about the project, you're going to turn your attention to the second button. That is the one you will use for questions about the project on Fredericksburg Road. When you enter the question, it gets placed in a queue to be answered by our panel of experts. And after the brief presentation is when we're going to do the question and answer. You can start putting in your questions now if you have a question that you know is going to be a part of this presentation. Your questions will be read aloud, and then a panelist is going to answer your questions. We expect this meeting to probably last within an hour or less. And if we don't get to all of your questions, don't worry. If there's a question we can't answer right now, we're going to get that question answered and to you. We're going to be able to have this discussion continue later through emails. And also the project managers will be able to get in touch with you at that time. So the virtual meeting is being recorded so that it can be available and reviewed at a later time as well. So if you want to ever refer to this, it will be online as soon as I can get it up after this meeting is done. I'd like to acknowledge and familiarize yourself with some of the faces on the screen. And the one that I want you to pay attention with is Eric Salazar. He is the project's manager, and he's going to be speaking about the upcoming construction. And for help for questions after this meeting, he will be joined by Richard Cassiano, and he is the Capital Projects Officer who will be your liaison, so to speak, for any future questions you may have down the road concerning this project as it gets underway. But first, I want to introduce our special guest. It's Councilman Roberto Trevino. Councilman?
Thank you, Joe, and I want to thank you for helping to launch this event. I'm joined by a cast of great folks from the city that are here to answer all your questions. And this really is about a great bond program that got voted in 2017, our 2017 bond program, to help address a lot of the issues that we have seen for a long time. This is a particular stretch of street that many of you have been speaking about and hoping that we get some of these items in place for so many years. We've taken your input, we have responded, and of course, that's what this meeting is all about. We want to get your input. We want to get your thoughts. Share this video as much as possible so that we can let people know this is what's coming. It's a 70% design, so many of the elements and the things that you've requested for many years leading up to the bond election. Of course, now that we're actually see this as a project, it's really exciting to see this getting ready to go under construction. So. With that, again, I'll be on this meeting for the entire time and look forward to hearing some feedback and some thoughts on this project. So for now, I will toss it over to Eric Salazar. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Trevino. Go ahead and share my screen, guys. All right, very good. This is the design virtual public meeting. As mentioned, it's a 70% design public meeting. As the agenda we have is I'm going to introduce my PM team. Then we're going to go through some project information and then public comments and questions. As Councilman Trevino mentioned, this bond was approved May 6th on 2017. So this has been in the works for some time for these improvements on Fredericksburg Road. My name is Eric Salazar. I'm the project manager. Rogelio Ananda, he is our project engineer. Emilio Rodriguez, he's our senior engineer and associate. And then we got Richard Castellano, capital projects officer. Our considered consultants are Fernando Camarillo from Posnecki Camarillo Incorporated, along with Mike Guerra, PE. He's assistant. He's assisted us with this design as well. We had a few preliminary design public meetings held in March of 2018 and 2018 on March and April. We held them at St. Anne's Community Center. When we had this meeting, the public kind of addressed some concerns for this improvement project, and they consisted of safety concerns, pedestrian mobility, bike lane connectivity, transit, drainage concerns, parking, and economic revitalization. And then we had a follow-up design meeting back in November, incorporating these characteristics into our design of last year. So the project limits, they stretch on Fredericksburg from North Flores to Craig's Place. As you may know, 5 Points intersection is now being constructed, so we intend to connect from that point on and make our way north to Craig's Place. The existing conditions there at Fredericksburg, we have a 4-lane facility. They're 11-foot travel lanes with 4-foot sidewalks. This is typically what you're going to find on Fredericksburg within these limits. These are a couple of photos of existing conditions there at Hickman, one looking at west and the other one looking south. We got large driveways, and we're noticing, a lot of encroachments onto the sidewalk. We definitely want to make it a little more safer for pedestrians, and a lot of head-in parking kind of encroaches into those pedestrian routes. So we broke this project up into 2 sections. We have south of Cincinnati, which is from North Flores to Cincinnati. There we have 3 lanes. Our proposed improvements include just having 3 lanes with a dedicated turning lane. And then, of course, bike lanes. So this would be a continuation at that 5 Points intersection with the bike lanes, and we will terminate those at Cincinnati. And then the second section is from Cincinnati to Craig's Place. And in that section, we really wanted to focus on pedestrian mobility by increasing the sidewalk widths, of course, and then parking was a big issue that many of the property owners along that corridor had requested. So we did a combination of those improvements in this particular section. One thing I do want to note as far as the project scope that was stated in this bond was that we are to construct corridor improvements on Fredericksburg to include drainage, pedestrian amenities, and enhancements as appropriate and within available funding. So when we looked at this project, we wanted to break them up into 2 sections that were meaningful, but also within our available funding. So when we go to advertise later next month, we intend to have a base bid for this first section, and then north of Cincinnati would be considered an additive alternate. So these are the characteristics that we're looking at in terms of what you would see in the section that is from Flores Street to Cincinnati. As you can see, we would reduce the 4-lane facility to 2-lane through traffic with a dedicated turning lane. And then, of course, you have your 5-foot bicycle lanes. And then we would increase the 4-foot sidewalks to 5-foot sidewalks in this section. And then from Cincinnati to Craig, we would have 2 travel lanes, 12-foot widths, and then parallel parking in this section with larger sidewalk accommodations from minimum, and this at the transition location, from 5 to 7 feet width. Our project scope includes curbs, sidewalk, driveway approaches, traffic signal upgrades at Culebra, Blanco, Colorado, Cincinnati, and a new signal at French. And then lane, we would do pedestrian crossings, of course, at these intersections. They would, for protection, lane reconfiguration, of course, bike lanes, on-street parking, bus pullouts and shelters, additional drainage capture and utility upgrades for SAWS water, and then surface adjustments for CPS gas and SAWS sewer. As a prelude to the city breaking ground, what you would expect to see is the third-party utilities like CPS Energy, the overhead, moving some of their poles because they're in conflict with the sidewalk. So they would make those adjustments. And then there would be the third-party utilities such as like Spectrum and AT&T and other comms that would start making their adjustments to new poles. Just wanted to throw that out there so get familiar with the first activities you ought to be able to see leading into us doing that work. So now we'll get into the schematic and the proposed improvements. We're going to start there at North Flores. As I mentioned, 5 Points intersection is currently under construction, and this is where we're going to tie into. We do have bike amenities in that intersection, so we want to continue with those amenities through this Culebra intersection. So since that's a fairly new project, we're just going to simply mill and overlay just so we can have new pavement markings to indicate the transitions from a 4-lane facility into a 2-lane facility with that turning lane. That's what you'll see there, but going toward Culebra Road. The green indicates the bike lanes. The orange are new proposed sidewalks, and then we have these little traffic signal indications are the signal upgrades. So there at Culebra, we will have a new signal upgrade at that intersection. Moving forward from Culebra Road to the Union Pacific Railroad, there highlighted in dashed red is indicates the railroad. And then we have, again, we'll continue with the bike lanes, sidewalks, we will have raised concrete medians at this location, and then queue jumps for buses there at Culebra Road. And that's this on the southbound side as we approach the intersection. A queue jump is normally for buses, and it's unique to buses. So in this case, a bus will be able to stop here at this location at Culebra on the southbound side. And as you can see, the signal head has a red signal section, a yellow signal section, and a green signal section. And then there will be another signal section unique just for buses. And we have introduced this signal section in our 5 Points project. So it's really it's unique. It's not yellow, red, or green. It's just a signal section that has a white bar that goes through it, and it lights up just a bar. It's in a vertical position, and when that bus sees that bar, all the stops, all the lights are going to be red, and that bar will let the bus shoot through that intersection, so they can save on their transit schedule. So you'll see a couple of these queue jumps at these intersections for more efficient transit mobility. Moving on from UP Railroad to Blanco Road, we still continue with our bike lanes, and then the concrete medians, of course. Here at Princeton, we have a hooded left turn lane, and then we have a upgraded intersection signal there at Blanco Road. And then from Blanco Road to Hickman, there at Colorado, we have one of the other upgraded intersection signals. And then we do continue with the bike lanes. And then we have these concrete medians there at between North Colorado and University. Hickman Street and Cincinnati. This is where we terminate the bike lanes here at Cincinnati. We do that. There's existing bike lanes that are on the westbound side of Cincinnati. This is a continuation for that facility, and which leads to the Woodlawn Lake Park. We figured that was a real good terminus for this project, and that's one of the reasons why we differentiated these segments from north of Cincinnati to south of Cincinnati. And then again, we continue with these raised concrete medians. From Cincinnati to Ashby, this is where we're focusing on wider sidewalks and then more on-street parking. In this section right here, what you'll see is there is a bus pullout. This is one of the first bus pullouts that we have on this project. There at just on the south side of Fredericksburg Road in Cincinnati. And what the intention is to have the bus pull in that little bay right there, unload passengers, and then move back into the travel lane. And as you can see, there is parallel parking there. So that's one of the big ticket items for this particular section. From Ashby Place to North French, this is you can see the continuation of public parking. We did want to bring out there's another another bus pull out there at Liz Davies green space, and I know we had some concerns there in our last public meeting in which we wanted to address some of the concerns now, just so if those that are on the call have a good understanding of what we're planning to do with that green space. And then again, we do have the upgraded intersection there at French, and this is one that is a brand new signalized intersection. In addition to that, this is where we do have another queue jump right here at the bus pullout that's at Liz Davies Park or green space, and then on the southbound side of Fredericksburg at the intersection of French. Those are both queue jumps at that location. So the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the improvements made to Liz Davies green space. So the section in red is the section that we're going to need to accommodate this bus pullout along with the 6-foot sidewalks. That is approximately 1,000 square foot of area that we're going to have to use to accommodate these improvements. However, we are making adjustments to Michigan Avenue and West French that are adjacent to this green space. We are making them one way, and in doing so, that allows us to pull more green space out of what is now a curb and pavement. So when we take make those adjustments for the one ways at those two streets, we're actually having a net benefit of 52 square feet added green space. So those sections in green are what we're adding in terms of green space. You'll find that there's a monument in the middle of that green space that we won't disturb. There's also a Liz Davies plaque that's on the side of French Place that we won't disturb. So we're anticipating that we'll make this green space a little bit more attractive, and I think it's going to be something that the Beacon Hills Neighborhood Association can be really proud of when we complete all these improvements in this area. Now we do understand that I think it was earlier this month the HDRC did approve and does recognize this area as historic. So we will make accommodations with HDRC to make sure that we're compliant with whatever we need to do in an effort to make these improvements in this area. And we also have Miranda Garrison with Public Works. If there's any questions that pop up regarding the HDRC, she should be able to answer those. Then as we approach the end, this is the section that we go back into a transition from a 2-lane facility back into a 4-lane. And then we have, we continue with the sidewalks and of course the on-street parking. Our project budget, it was $8 million, and then our project schedule, we expect to have our design complete by next month, and then we can advertise late next month. So we estimate our construction start will be May 2021, and then in February 2023. So our capital projects officer is Richard Cassiano. Any questions that we might have or concerns, please feel free to email him at richard.cassiano@sanantonio.gov, and his number is also posted there at 210-207-8218. And with that concludes the presentation. So we can get into the questions and answers section. I'm going to turn it back to Joe.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Yeah, for the questions, I know we have a few attendees, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and use your, let me share the screen again, just in case. I'm gonna make myself the presenter here and share my screen. If you have a question for us, again, we're taking questions using the question icon that's either on your smartphone or on your laptop. So if you have a question for us, please let us know. We have a few minutes and we would love to hear from you. And we have all of our experts standing by. So that being said, I see no questions so far. Does anybody, any of our comments, any future comments or any more comments rather from our panel of experts on the presentation itself? Any additions or anything you felt like you wanted to comment on? David, you kind of raised your hand. David, what would you like to tell us?
Yeah, Joe, this is David McBeth, Assistant City Engineer, and I'm really liking the way that this project is shaping up. We've gone through a lot of public outreach early in the project, and I really feel like the corridor is really set up well with sort of the bike lanes connecting to 5 Points, connecting to Cincinnati, and then providing more the spacious pedestrian elements in the northern half, which I think is where a lot of the small commercial elements are up in the northern portion of the project. So I think we've really reached a really good balance with the design, and I'm excited to see this move forward.
Thank you for that. Not to put you on the spot, Councilman, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, only to add that the really the goal of this project is to also acknowledge that this is setting the tone for the rest of Fredericksburg Road. And with the upcoming bond, I just want to use this as a great opportunity to talk about why it's so important to get public input and why we want to have this information, because every 5 years we get to plan another bond, and in 2022 we will have our next bond election. And our hope is that this project will set the tone for Fredericksburg Road as it continues northwest. And so as David McBeth said, it's great to see it coming together, to see all the public input, and I believe it's going to set a great example for the rest of this very, very important corridor. So we want to hear from you, and just know that this is going to dovetail into the next bond.
Thank you so much for that, Councilman. We appreciate that. Any of our other experts want to chime in or If not, I know we've been going on for about 30 minutes now. I don't see any questions from our attendees. That does not mean that you're not going to have a question. If you think of something in the future, you want to let us know. And so with that in mind, remember to take down this address. It's Richard Cassiano. He is our Capital Projects Officer. That is his phone number, and that's also where you can reach him by email. So you'll have this video to look at for reference, and if you have any questions or comments that you want to send our way, we'll be more than happy to hear from you, and Richard will be more than happy to get back in touch with you. So with that being said, I think we're going to call this one a successful completion to this design phase meeting for Fredericksburg Road. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of our experts. I want to thank the councilman too for joining us. We appreciate it. And again, if you have any kind of concerns or anything, and it's for your streets in his area or any area around town, that's a 311 call. And if you have any questions about this project, obviously get a hold of Richard Cassiano, our Capital Projects Officer. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you attending.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.